Okay. Just a second. Okay, and we're live. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Crypto Hour. Today, there is a lot going on in crypto, but also a lot going on in the general economic climate. So we'll start from there and then move on to the crypto news in a moment. But first of all, I wanted to show you how crypto fits into the general economic environment. Okay, so let me share it. Oh, sorry, I don't want to look at the calendar. So first of all, we start from the what has been a pretty light week from the point of view of macroeconomic news. So there is the Davos World Economic Forum going on. So that's kind of like an ongoing event lasting a week, where sometimes snippets come out and do move the markets, but sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So there's no particular date where we can relate to. The main announcement has been on Wednesday, the producer price inflation in the US and the retail sales. As you can see, they're coming in at kind of like lower than expected, and we'll see why this is starting to show in the figures right now. This morning, for example, as you can see, today is a pretty light day. There's no red announcement as such, but there have been quite important announcements from the pound, and we better see it. This economic calendar is Forex Factory. This on investing.com, there is kind of like a more detailed one. And this we can see the figure, and this kind of reflects the numbers that we've seen in the US PPI, on Wednesday, and we can start seeing that there are quite worrying numbers coming in for the UK. Apart from the consumer confidence keeps going more and more negative. But if we can start seeing that retail sales are going down, not just month on month, but -6% year on year. Okay, so on the core sales, but also retail sales are down 5.8%. This is much more than was expected. Obviously the middle column is the forecast. The right column is the previous, the previous number from the month before, and this is the actual that just been announced. Okay, so we keep seeing a kind of deteriorating economic results. Okay, and we'll go and have a look at why, and we'll see what's happening. Okay, so if we look generally, this is the G20 interest rates. Central bank interest rates. Okay, and we see that generally speaking, they have been going up, and this is not news, but all over the world, pretty much the same picture because of the high level of money printing that there has been during the COVID pandemic, and now most countries across the world are tightening the monetary policy, and so to do that, probably the main tool is raising interest rates. So there is quite a blunt tool, but this is what central banks mostly are using. And it's interesting to have a look at. This is one of the indicators. The other indicator that we can look at in combination with this is the inflation figures. And as we can see, the inflation figures have, generally speaking, with some exceptions, started going in the right direction. So the market is reacting to the raise. We've had several months of increasing interest rates, and this is starting to cause a reduction in the inflation rates. Excuse me. You can see the main result in move the market since the beginning of the year was the announcement that the inflation rate in the US has dropped from 7.1% to 6.5%. And this is, by the summer, it is forecasted to go down to below 2.5%. Okay, and similar reductions we've seen across the world, but in other countries, especially in Europe, they're much higher than we've seen in the US, with the UK still in double figures, and the euro area just went back in from double figures now, but still at very, very elevated 9.2%. Now, the other thing that's interesting to look at is this. These are sovereign credit default swaps. So this is basically is insurance that you can buy against the possibility of a country going into default. Okay, and we can see the variation. So this is the cost of buying insurance. Okay, this is the variation that we've seen over the last month and over the past 6 months. It is quite interesting to look at this. Sorry, I can't highlight quite much. But the numbers for the United States. So the cost of buying insurance against the default of the United States has gone up 30% in the last month alone. And so, I'm not saying that they're going to default tomorrow, but the possibility of like major economies going into default has been, for some economies has been growing. For others, kind of like there was elevated before, has been, as you can see, the green numbers, it means that it has actually reduced. The cost of buying insurance has reduced. And this column here shows you the implied probability of a country going into default. So where most Western countries has below the 1% implied possibility of a default, there are some exceptions to that. And if we look at, for example, of like Turkey and Egypt, we're going towards almost like 10% possibility they're going into default. Brazil, we are 4%, and there are some countries that are elevated also borrowing, like Italy, almost like 2%. So this is not something that to be ignored, because these are, when we go above, let's say 0.5%, these are numbers that are statistically significant. Okay, apart from, Egypt and Turkey are a separate case in the sense that, 10% is something that we all should be aware of. If, you think in any way of having anything to do with these countries, 10% is a, kind of likely chance of something happening. Okay. So this is just wanted to make you realize how the economic condition is changing, and this is how we need to look at a economic cycle. Okay, and this is what I wanted to show you, how the interest rates they are charged by central banks are creating this sort of cycle. Okay, it all starts from a moment when central banks as interest rates very, very low, as we have had in the Western economy ever since pretty much 2008, and the economy grows due to the low cost of capital. So the currency appreciates because of growth, because companies can get access to pretty much almost free capital, and also because there is this growth and we have inflation in the economy. So that causes prices to rise, and demand to also increase, because people have got more money to spend, they're earning more, they spend more. So what does cause it? Because the central bank sees the prices are going up, then the currency appreciates because people expect the banks to increase interest rates. So then the central banks do raise interest rates to kind of like cool down the economy, and this causes the currency to appreciate as well, because there's a higher return on investment. So this is, if you're talking about on a general, if you have money and thinking, where shall I put this? If central banks are getting interest rates high, now you can get pretty much across the world kind of interest rates of around 5% on your on your money. So it becomes an attractive investment. But the point is that this raising interest rates, then it means that the capital then becomes expensive. Okay, so because companies don't find it as easy to borrow money, or it's more expensive to borrow money, and the economy slows down. And this is what we are seeing right now. Okay, so we're going through from this phase here to this phase here. So this is already started, by the way. It's not just we're not just going into it. The economy obviously is already started to slow down, and we can see also by the numbers in the inflation that started to go down. Okay, so the next step, and we're starting to have kind of a green shoots of this, and that is that the prices fall as demand decreases, because the currency depreciates because there are fears of recession, and some countries are already in a technical recession, and then then the next step is that the currency starts depreciating because there's an anticipation of lower interest rates, and this will be further ahead, a few months from where we are now, when the economies are pretty much in recession, and then the governments and central banks need to stimulate the economy again, and so then this was when they start lowering the interest rates, and then the currency obviously carry on depreciating because of a lesser return on investment. I'm talking about investing in the currency, okay, so holding the currency for a return. As you expect the banks to decrease the interest rate, then also the people have got less reason to invest, and then we start the cycle again. So from where we are right now, which is here between pretty much in this bottom third, we are now embarking on this phase here. So as you can see, when we're talking last week, I'm saying yes, prices have started going up. There's been like an uptick both in the stock market and in the crypto market, but it's not really. We're not out of deep water yet, because we still have to go through this pain before then we start a new cycle of growth and expansive monetary policy again. Now let's go into talking about crypto in particular, and this is one of the things that we've been talking about for the last 2 or 3 months is actually happening right now. So first of all, let me just cover this, which is how in the first couple of weeks, the raise in crypto prices, which was pretty much dominated by, as we were saying before, the numbers that were announced. Let me show you the numbers that were announced last week. So this announcement here really moved the market very much, although it was really pretty much as forecasted, but still the decrease from inflation rate from 7.1 to 6.5% caused a big move in the market with like a really high volatility. and what we see here, we go into a daily chart for Bitcoin. So we can see the rally here from the beginning of the year to where we are right now. So we moved out from the kind of 16 to 17,000 range, and today we are about 21,000. So quite a significant rally. Now, part of this rally is due to liquidation. So when you see, so if you imagine, if I can put a couple of lines here. So another one here. If you can imagine, since November, we've been in this kind of a trading range. Okay, so for traders, and if we can actually put a little bit higher here. Okay, if you can imagine now this trading range, and if you were trading the markets, what a lot of traders would do would put their stop losses, just above the extremes of the range. So on here, if you are short because you worry for prices coming back against you, and for here, if you are long, because if you think, okay, if I bought Bitcoin but actually it goes down and breaks this resistance, then it might go a lot lower. And the same here, if it breaks this, then it would go a lot higher. Now, the issue is that many people don't have good risk management in place. So what happens is that when we do break these kind of resistances, and the stop losses are then automatically triggered, this causes prices to keep going up, because a stop loss for a short, it means that you need to cover your position and then buy the currency that you're shorting, in this case, Bitcoin. So that manifests in the markets as more buy order. And then the next step is that many accounts that don't have, they're not liquid enough, and they are basically trading on borrowed money, get automatically, when we get past a certain point, get automatically liquidated by the exchanges. And that creates this very, very fast move. And you can see here in kind of 1, 2, 3 days, we went from 17.5 to 21,000, okay, which is like a 20% move. And this is why we can see this very quick movement. But going on, what's happening today? Okay, so this is the picture for today. This is only a short-term chart, so it's like 15 minutes. So this is, let me just mark it so we can see where we started today, and I can have a look. Okay, so this is today. Okay, this is the movement of today, and what we've been talking about for the past couple of months is actually no, sorry, it's not this one I want to show you. This is where the digital currency groups Genesis, which is a cryptocurrency exchange, has actually filed for bankruptcy protection. Okay, after they've been trying to find a solution, but they haven't managed to find enough funding to keep it going. So we are in the situation now that not only they are, they file for bankruptcy protection, but obviously this is just one of the assets of the digital currency group, which has a lot more assets on his books. So what we might encounter after this is kind of like a fire sale of some of these assets to be able to carry on in the other businesses that they run. So it's not completely, so this business has still got 150 million in the bank, but it's now insolvent. Okay, so it cannot pay out all its creditors because they owe over 3.5 billion just at to the top 50 creditors. Okay, so this is something that I was saying we had in the cards. We haven't had the rest of the dominoes fall. So that doesn't mean that the digital currency group is now into, is going to file for bankruptcy, but it's still one of the things that was hanging on the on the crypto market in general. But the very interesting thing is that where we were in, as I showed you before, let me just show you, where we were before in this period, we were into a situation of extreme fear. So where any announcement like this caused really, really big drop in prices. Where we are instead today is this has been announced, but really has had no effect whatsoever on price. I mean, yes, we dropped a couple of $100, but that's nothing in Bitcoin's terms, We have, Bitcoin drops, this is what the drop following the dollar numbers that were announced last week. Okay, so this is kind of a normal for Bitcoin, but the general, if we look if we see 2 days range, for example. Okay, just even looking at the screen at these extremes, you can see this is like $359. Okay, $359. If we see how far on average Bitcoin's moves in a day, so go back to the daily. Okay, if we see here the value at the moment, Bitcoin is moving $600 every day on average. Okay, so this move that we've had today is pretty much nothing, so the market is not being moved by this announcement. And that is definitely a good thing, because it means that in a way the market has already digested the news even before they were announced. So kind of like it was something that everybody had already priced in, because they were expecting this bankruptcy filing to happen. And it is a good thing, because after the fall of FTX, this was probably the biggest of the things that could hinder the growth of the crypto market as a whole. And the fact that it's been pretty much digested without big drop in price, it is definitely good news. Now, another news also is that the SEC has actually charged Sam Bankman-Fried, the CEO of FTX, for abusing 1.8 billion of investor funds. This is not relating to generally FTX, but to about some large investors, and what he represented to these investors before they actually invested his money with them. Okay, so they're trying to stop him from doing anything related with securities, with running a company or anything like that. So they're really trying to shackle him as much as they can. Okay, so this is, again, it's another bit of good news, because I don't think that having him around in crypto at the moment, it will do crypto any good. So the more we can put this behind us, I can say, and kind of move on to the proper growth of cryptocurrency and projects that are doing good work, then the better it is. Okay, now let's move on to, from all the bad news in a way, let's move on to the kind of better news. One of the biggest one to report is on Polkadot. Okay, so now there is like a version 3 of Polkadot's cross-chain messaging format has been released. Okay, what will that do? Polkadot works in interoperability between blockchains. So this is kind of move them closer to what Cosmos is doing as well with their IBC protocol, in making it easier to move assets in between different blockchains. So this is something they are in development for over 15 months, and will make the network more interconnected than it's ever been. Okay, so this will allow both fungible tokens and NFTs to be more easily sent and received by other chains. It also will add kind of the ability to lock and unlock tokens on other networks as well. So, and this is kind of like we've seen, this has been reflected also in the price of Polkadot. It has grown about 33% from the beginning of the year. And also the Polkadot ecosystem tokens, as well. So it is, again, a good news, but it's not just for, when I bring you these things, it's not because I want to say, oh, look how well they're doing. It's because these are kind of like improvements. They are not just important for them as a blockchain, but are important for crypto as a whole. You've heard me many times before talk about, Polkadot, Cosmos, and Cardano, probably the 3 projects that are raising the game for everybody else. So they're raising cryptocurrencies to a different level, to where they're closer to the functionality that would be needed in the real world. Okay. And this is, if you're interested, this is a tweet from Gavin Wood. He's a creator of Polkadot, and also one of the original founders of Ethereum. He's, by the way, is the guy that is responsible for creating the Solidity programming language, which is a language used for Ethereum programming. So if you are interested in technical details, you can go and read this, and just click on this. If you click on Gavin Wood on Twitter, this will bring this up, and then click on this, and you can read all the technical details of what this means. Okay, I'm not going to cover it here because it's quite dense. Okay, talking about different things now. Moving on, how could we not talk about Cardano? And this is interesting because one of the assets of digital currency group that are kind of have a value, could be sold, is CoinDesk, Newsdesk, and apparently is being rumored that could have a value of around 200 million. Okay, now if you listen to Charles Hoskinson on his YouTube channel, he actually was talking about the possibility of acquiring CoinDesk. This is because Cardano has always had kind of like bad press against them from the kind of like Ethereum community. And funny enough, I don't know if you realize that whenever you read an article about Cardano, although the article can be like a positive title and kind of like positive news talking well about Cardano, is something that it didn't even happen last year. But if you read always to the end, there's always a kind of like the bad snippet at the end. I say, oh yeah, this is good, but, and there's always a but in any article that you read about Cardano generally. So what they think he was thinking of personally, not Cardano buying CoinDesk, but personally himself as a billionaire, so he could afford to buy if he wanted to. So to bring more credibility, not just to Cardano, but generally to crypto reporting. And he was talking about having kind of like news stories become an NFT that could then take a life of their own and bring in some way of verifying the news connected with the blockchain that could actually make the space a little bit more genuine. Because at the moment, whenever you read cryptocurrency news, you've got to ask yourself, what is the writers or the desk, purpose? What are they trying to achieve as a general purpose? Because there's always a second reason why they write any articles. They don't just write it, an article like in general and just for the interest of news. But they're always trying to promote something that they got a vested interest in. Okay, so this could be, I don't know if this will happen or not, but obviously it's something that is openly talked about it. And I think they'll be investigating now to see if there's a possibility. First of all, we still don't know if this is will be put up for sale or not. But in case it is, it could be. It would be interesting if it went into his hands rather than into somebody else's. Now, moving on, another news about Cardano, and this is more like activity in the real world. This is the world's first automotive project will be hosted on Cardano. Okay, and this is the called the e-tuk-tuk. Okay, which basically is a program that is a company has been founded to bring electric-powered 2- and 3-wheel vehicles to help developing countries clean up the air and bring electric vehicles as well to those kind of economies. Okay, so they want to expand the charging stations in developing economies, so they can also benefit from this new wave. Okay, so the idea is that it also is not just good from the point of view of bringing electricity. When you're thinking about, if you've been to any of the countries that use their tuk-tuks, you know that they are very highly polluting, apart from anything else. And this is not only would bring more electric vehicles and cleaner air, but it will also increase the earning power of drivers by almost 400%. So, and the Cardano blockchain will be used to help all the transactions take place securely and transparently. Okay, so this is not, obviously it's a small thing. It's not that it's because of this announcement, don't think that the price of ADA will actually shift in any significant way. But I wanted to show you how the difference is between talking about crypto projects and the crypto projects that are actually making a difference in the real world. And these are kind of like examples of projects that are they are trying to make a difference. And this is one of the reasons why also Cardano has been voted like the most loved cryptocurrency in Africa. because of all the projects they are launching and things that have taken many years to develop, like the initiative they they launched to bring Ethiopian education on the Cardano blockchain in a way that, you know, to onboard more than 5 million students so that they can have the student history on the blockchain and being able to prove the qualifications. So these are things that, you know, don't happen to a day. It's not hype. They don't happen from a day to the other. This has been like 5 years of talking to the Ethiopian government and discussing the ins and outs of having such an agreement. And it's like more and more what we will see in 2023 now. We can see whether crypto was like before just an idea, now it's becoming a reality. And there are many projects actually using it. If you own, or if you know somebody owns a business, like all large businesses, pretty much over 90% of large businesses are actually already have some blockchain initiatives in their business, or they're planning to apply them to their business. And this is now percolated down to the smaller businesses as well. So what I'm trying to show you is how things are actually happening. Whatever happens to the price should be seen, you know, separately. But what happens in the real world and to the development of this technology in the real world should be taken seriously, because as I said, we, you know, whatever happens to the price, this is here to stay, you know, for at the very least the next decade, and then we'll see what happens after that. Okay, other news. First of all, let me just cover this. I'll do this first. So Samsung, you know, as you know, the big Korean conglomerate has launched a Bitcoin ETF. Okay, so they listed as something Bitcoin futures active ETF on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Okay, as the Hong Kong is the only market where in Asia where Bitcoin futures ETF are listed and traded in the institutional market. Okay, so this is another way. So as you know, why are they doing this? Okay, simply because they realize that there is a lot more interest now in investing in cryptocurrencies. In this case, obviously, is Bitcoin, but obviously it needs to be done also from the point of view of institutions and large investors. It needs to be done in a way that that is regulated and that where they can apply their risk management to. And these kind of products, and we've seen a proliferation of these products last year being launched all across the world, you know, from the US to Canada to, you know, to Germany and other Switzerland and other countries, because there is a growing interest from to have investment grade cryptocurrencies that anybody can then invest in safely with mechanisms that they're already familiar with, like how you, for example, how you buy shares on the stock market. You can now buy shares in different kind of ETFs, crypto ETFs, for example, you know, at the same time benefiting by the regulation in the exchange where these funds are listed. Okay, let me just let's have a look. Okay, other uses, for example, of blockchain and decentralization in this case, this is that decentralized forex will reduce costs by as much as 80%. Cost of what? Cost of remittances. Okay, so when you're thinking about if the kind of foreign exchange market starts using decentralized finance protocol instead of current centralized system, and the cost of remittances could be reduced by as much as 80%. Okay, this is by, obviously, you know, we got to see. I haven't read the whole research paper, but this is kind of research being conducted by Uniswap and Circle. So again, you know, the remittances market is, again, it's a large market, and we're seeing as this is already being, you know, it's already being used by countries where they rely on remittances, especially kind of the Caribbean countries and South American countries would have lots of people that work in the US and they send money home on a regular basis. And now the alternative up to recently was to use places like Western Union and things like that. They would charge up to 30% of the amount being sent to be able to send it from A to B. But now the same thing can be done at a fraction of the cost using cryptocurrencies. Another one of the big uses of blockchain and cryptocurrencies and what is coming, this is the tokenization of real world assets, and this is the big elephant in the room. Okay, so this article actually this is the title, but it talks about everything back. This is the next cycle, and this is the important part actually. So the tokenization of actual real world assets, it's something that would be happening in the near future. So and this will include tokenized securities that we already seen in Brazil, for example, and in particular also tokenized real estates. And this we're talking about multi-trillion dollar market that could be brought into could be transformed from an illiquid to an illiquid asset through blockchain. And this is probably one of the easy, more identifiable uses of blockchain in the near future. Because imagine, if you wanted to invest in, let's say, in property, but you don't have enough funds to buy, especially a particularly prestigious property in the center of London or central New York or something like that. If this was split and tokenized, maybe you won't be able to afford it all, but you may be able to afford buying a few bricks of that particular property and benefit from the increase in prices, proportionally, obviously, the same way as at the moment a large investor that has, a few hundred million maybe to buy one of those properties can benefit from. So this is kind of like real life, I would say, a real life difference that this technology could make, in the investing world. On a different subject, this is something that is hotting up, basically, the market for hardware wallets. Okay, market has been dominated by Ledger and by Trezor. Now we can see there are more hardware wallets coming into the market, and this is just being announced by 1inch. 1inch is one of the main decentralized exchanges and aggregators in crypto. So they have launched their own hardware wallet. So they have developed it. So this is kind of like a preview of what the wallet will look like, and would be like a mobile wallet. It doesn't require the wire connection, and all transactions will be carried out by using other QR codes or NFC. Okay, and also the wallet will allow users to create multiple sets of wallets with different seed phrases, which is interesting. So as you can see, because why they're launching something like this, because there's an increase in demand and people that want to, obviously, with all the problems that we've had with the problems that we've had with central exchanges, it's kind of like it's increased the demand for people to actually look after their own token and to have them in a safe place. Now, I had an article, I'm not quite sure where I have placed it, on Nexo. I know that some of you may have used Nexo for their tokens. I can't quite find it. Let me just have a look very quickly. Oh, there we are. Okay, so this is kind of good news from Nexo, because there was a possibility that the SEC could sue them, but now they've agreed an out-of-court settlement with the SEC, where they will pay kind of like a fine of 45 million. So basically, the problem was that they were deemed to have launched a kind of like a lending crypto lending program, which was like a unregistered security. Okay, so they stopped offering that kind of program in the US, and they've agreed a fine of 45 million. So that puts again a stop to any issues that might have been hanging over their head from the US regulators, and they carry on with their business. Okay, so it's kind of like good news, and we'll see how this has affected the, let me see if it's on here. As you can see, I'm just this the last hour, is reacted very positively. Okay, the price of the tokens has actually gone up quite significantly during the not quite sure what time the announcement was, but let's say it was, even if it was from here, was almost like a 14% increase in a few hours. So it's always interesting to see when news are reported as well how the markets react to these to these news. And we're coming almost to the end of it. There's something we don't know how this is something that will happen or not. Okay, this is the chief now of FTX since the Sam Bankman-Fried resigned. So they're saying that they were thinking of resurrecting the FTX exchange and start trading again. Now, whether this will happen or not, we shall see. But this is at least they are talking about the possibility of this reopening, and people start. I mean, it still doesn't say anything about what happens to to people's assets in FTX, because obviously they're still going through bankruptcy procedure. So we'll see what happens to that, but take it with a pinch of salt. I just wanted to bring it to you. And lastly, but obviously not least, is what about the digital makeup? Okay, so why not? Everything else is going digital, so why not makeup as well? So this is L'Oreal that is launched an online beauty incubator. So they launched a DAO called, if you look how it is spelled, this was pronounced as gorgeous. Okay, as well as 1,000 Ethereum NFTs. You can read it yourself. This is what they will be called, the FKWME pass. Okay, so it's a little bit of fun, but at the same time, as there is more interest in the metaverse and in avatars, this will bring kind of makeup artists a way to experiment, to do things that are not possible in the real world. So it'd be interesting to see how this develop. And also, obviously makeup is hugely popular, and it might bring, again, a group of people that maybe they were not interested in cryptocurrency before to using, through Web3 experiences, using this kind of service, bring them through the back door to the world of cryptocurrency. And this is what we've been talking about in the past many times. Let's say the new big wave of mass adoption in crypto would probably not come from cryptocurrency investors, but would come from people that use cryptocurrency services because they do the same way that people use gaming or do other things online. Now they will be doing Web3 connected activities like this, like metaverse and so on, and they'd be coming into cryptocurrency because that's the way that you access these things. You will need to have some tokens to do X, Y, and Z. And so they will be on board a huge number then on new users that will experience the first cryptocurrency experience through projects like these. Okay, so if you are interested in makeup, definitely go and have a look at this gorgeous DAO, and maybe have a look at these NFTs when they're released. It may turn up to be the next huge thing, and then you can start. I don't know what you can do with these NFTs, if you can change them and put different makeup in them or whatever. But if that floats your boat, then go and have a look at it. Okay, let me stop sharing now and let's take some questions. Guys, have you got anything, particularly any burning desire to hear something about crypto? Come on, don't be shy.
Luca, I heard that FTX, there's billions of dollars have been found or recovered. Wouldn't that make it easier to rebuild FTX, or to also bring back the money that has been lost?
Well, I don't know, because at the moment, obviously, everything is in the wrapper or the bankruptcy protection. So before that, it's not that because they're in the bankruptcy procedure, they can't just do what they want with the money. This all is in the country, in control of the administrators. So they couldn't potentially, what they can do is they could put a plan together, but it needs to be approved, because obviously they need to consider, when they go to this stage now, they need to consider the interest of the creditors before anything else now. So we'll see. Obviously, if funds appear, the more funds there are, the more likely it is that they could then start again in some guise. But we'll see what happens. Nothing can be said. It can be speculated on at the moment. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions? You can ask Jonathan about the tuk-tuks. At Kadar. And okay, just so anybody has any questions?
Look, I can ask you something else about the Genius
U
shares. They've gone up 282%. Have you heard of that?
Yes, you see the bottles of champagne in the background?
No, no. So what was the reason?
Obviously, is good news. What Roger was talking about is naked short selling, which is basically where people shorted the stock, without then delivering it. And there is I wasn't too aware of this myself. Okay, but there's a way. Basically, when you short a stock, you borrow it from the broker. Okay, but at some stage, then you either have to cover the position, either to, the broker should have the stock in his books. So the way that this will apparently, this looks like it was managed, is that the broker, the people that shorted this stock don't really have it in their hands, because it doesn't exist. Okay, so what they try to do, and they've done it before with other things. They short a stock that's got very little liquidity. Okay, so they know that there won't be a lot of buying pressure against them. And the reason is that they hope to take it to the point where they take it to bankruptcy, so they'll never have to pay back those shares. Okay. And what apparently Roger has announced is that they created kind of like a task force against this naked short selling, and also they've announced that they will launch a special dividend, which is not in because if they announce a dividend, then obviously if there's a brokerage that is connected with this sort of activity, they could just pay the dividend out of their own pocket, even if they don't have those shares and they got users, they have got those shares just in name, they could pay the dividend out of their own pocket. But what I think is announced is that they will pay a dividend in a different way. So not in money, but probably give them as shares. I don't know if they launch, they float the GeniusU platform separately. They give people that hold the GeniusU group shares of these other companies. But by doing that, then people must come out if they want to claim the shares with the actual shares in the first place. So that could be a way of flushing out because naked short selling is illegal. So what we might have seen is that people that were playing this game being forced to cover their position, so to buy back the shares that were shorted. Okay, and this is obviously, we've seen an incredible amount of volume for a stock that had pretty much no volume up to 2 or 3 days ago, and we'll see what happens in the past. But what then starts happening, and we'll see this in the next few days, that because GeniusU has grown by over 200% in one day, this is starting to get reported into news channels that wouldn't normally talk about it. Okay, so kind of like investing a news channel. If you scroll down, now you see in GeniusU coming up in a lot of important news channels now. I know that Roger was on Fox News as well talking about this, so it would have got into people's radar. And then obviously at the moment there will be the other things. So there will be a lot of people there, hoping to get on the bandwagon and make some quick bucks by buying GeniusU shares. So it will have a cycle of things like going up and then coming down and so on. But if that, as a result, means that we have a more volume going through in GeniusU shares, it cannot be anything else than a good thing. Then what this will mean, we'll see in the long term. But obviously, going from 30 cents to $2 is good news for anybody that holds GeniusU shares.
Thank you very much.
A long may continue. Okay, let's hope that we can go back in double figures. Who knows? Okay, anybody else with questions?
So Luca, then next show, so that we can again put back all the funds to the next back now, or what about this Bulgarian money laundering things? Is it solved as well?
I mean, let's have a look at it in, how the market reacts, because people that are a lot more informed than what we are. So let's have a look at next. So on a. So this is November, so nothing to do with this. So you see that pretty much. I think it was last week that was announced the Bulgarian thing, wasn't it?
It's the last week. Yeah.
So if you see here, there hasn't been much. The market has pretty much ignored it, so it hasn't really made any difference. And obviously, it's a centralized exchange, so we've seen several big ones, go down recently. Nexo was always considered the more risk averse, because they got also insurance protection, not complete like a bank account, but it has a certain measure of protection more than any other exchange out there, at least from the point of view of the insurance cover. But I don't know. Obviously, I don't know if that has any significance long term. I know that in Bulgaria, apart from anything else, there is also a lot of corruption. So, exactly will need to be. It probably will come out in the next few months. But obviously, the US news is being taken very positively, as you see in the prices.
Yeah. Thank you, Luca.
No problem. And also, if you want to have a look at Bitcoin again, so whether this is the general market of Bitcoin at the moment, is price is kind of like fighting against this level. There's the first level that the origin of this big down move, and we can see that the market has started exploring the price beyond that, as you can see. So he's actually dipped above it, but he actually hasn't closed above. So the momentum wasn't enough for price to close above this this level. So we're still in a creating a sideways move. I mean, if we pretty much, you could ignore this high volatility day, but if we went to this, we're starting to create. Sorry, let me take that off. We're starting to create a range here. What's interesting to understand, when there is a range, okay, and there is a lot of trading in that range. So let's say that we're in there, like, again, for another week or so, 2 weeks. So that means that for every trade that takes place, for every movement here, there is one buyer and one seller. Obviously, the buyers are buying because they expect the price to be higher. The sellers sell because they expect the price to be low. So what will then happen? Imagine that at the extremes of this range, we have above it, we'll have stop losses from people that sold Bitcoin to go short. And we have here and here, we'll have sell shorts from people that bought to go long. So what is interesting to understand is that we have at these levels, we have a bunch of orders waiting when price breaks this range. Okay, and then what that means is that it's almost an incentive to people to get into the game once price starts approaching this level, because it means that once we break it, then price accelerates either on the way up or on the way down. Interesting to see that. I know that I don't normally do this during this session. What is the I don't remember what time frame that was. Okay. Yeah, we can see there is an area of demand here, just sitting just below this range, okay, at around 20,000. We don't know if price will get there or not, but definitely this could be an area where price, unless there is a very, very strong momentum, something has been announced in the news or anything else, there's a kind of a high likelihood for price to turn around and carry on its merry way up, especially if it breaks this level at about 20,400, it accelerates down between 20,000 and 19,700, and then it can carry on his way up. So this could be a high possibility setup for Bitcoin, although we might well, this is if it breaks on the way down, okay, but if it breaks this range on the way up, we might not revisit this area again. All right, let me stop that again. Okay, we almost at the end of the session. Remind you that Jonathan's session will start in half an hour. The Cardano-based session. I think that I'm not quite sure if Sharon Jeet has got your details as well, Jonathan. So just to make sure, then we have his session is on Discord. So that's the link on the chat box. If you haven't been on one of those sessions before, and if you have, you know how valuable they are. So even more reason to get on there. Jonathan, I'm not quite sure. Sorry, this is like those of you that are investing into the new Cardano opportunity. Jonathan, we've been sent the agreement. I don't know if you've seen it or not. I've just seen the email come through this morning, but I haven't quite looked at it yet. So we're coming close to signing and finally accessing this investment for our group. So exciting times. Have you had a chance to have a quick look?
I haven't read it yet. No, that's cool. But yeah, hopefully we'll get that done today then.
Yeah. So
Might send out.
probably I'm quite full up today, but probably we'll have a look at it tomorrow.
Okay.
So then we can then go and sign and complete the transaction. Exciting times. Exciting time, guys. Okay, so if anybody has a question, I'll be happy to take it now. Otherwise, we'll adjourn to till next week. No, we're all satisfied. Okay, all right, guys. So let me wish you a great weekend. Enjoy your time wherever you are in the world, and don't make us jealous if you are in Australia. With all the nice weather you have. Okay, we're quite cold here, so I can see frost in my garden as I look out of the window. So we're kind of the other extreme, but we take our revenge in the summer. Okay. All right. So have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Okay.
Thanks, Luca. Bye
Bye,
bye.
everyone. Bye bye.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Luca.
Bye.